What is a completely random fact? Like us to read you more awesome Reddit topics? Just like and subscribe to our channel. When a Viking received a gut wound, they would be fed strong onion soup. After some time, someone would smell the wounds elsewhere on their body. If they smelled like onions, there was damage to the intestines and no chance of saving them. That is pretty ingenious, to be honest. It's safe and effective. Also, their understanding of human anatomy was pretty decent too. I would not be in the mood for soup after being stabbed in the stomach. Perhaps not a direct stab, but maybe a slash that you got during battle. Penguins have an organ above their eye that converts salt water into fresh water. Ladies and gentlemen, we have solved the freshwater crisis. Found out how to make water not vegan. Squid brains are donut-shaped, and their esophagus runs through it. If a squid eats something too big, it can get brain damage. I would be a real dumb squid. That's why Squidward's always so pissed. He has to cut all his food into tiny pieces, which takes ages. That must be why he went so loopy after eating all those Krabby Patties. Similarly, the vagus nerve runs pretty close to your upper digestive tract, and eating large food items without properly chewing them, or if they're dry and go down in large clumps, can cause heart palpitations, which, if you haven't experienced them, feel kind of like you're dying. That's because the vagus nerve innervates the heart and can be irritated by that process. It also includes postural problems and bloating, among some other things. I've had heart palpitations before, and who buddy, they are not fun. What's even worse is they were caused by anxiety, but then the palpitations just made me more anxious. So it was a never-ending game of one-upsmanship until I was finally able to take something to help me relax. It literally feels like your heart is trying to jump out of your body, and you can feel the throbbing in your neck. The worst is when it stutters or jumps and then you feel nothing for a while, then it comes back. It's like your heart is dancing at a shitty EDM concert. Ants have a terminal velocity of 1.778 meters per second. This means they can fall from any height and not harm themselves. No fall damage. That's so unfair. Humans have x100 fall damage of ants, but also x100 strength and speed. We also have the magnifying glass cheat code. Air must be noticeably thick when you're that small. For the smallest bug, it's like swimming in syrup, I think. Fairy fly. If they fell from a passenger jet, they take about an hour and a half to reach the ground. Gary Newman is 13 days older than Gary Oldman. Wonder if Newman knows Oldman? Hope not. Together they'd be Gary Meanman. At one point in time, all the details of the Manhattan Project were in 3 safes, each locked with the code 27, 18, 28. Mathematicians would of course recognize these numbers as the Euler number, 2.71828, a number that has wide importance in calculus. Physicist Richard Feynman was able to crack into these safes after snooping around the secretary's desk and finding the number pi, 3.14159. After thinking, why would a secretary need to know the value of pi, he deduced it was probably a code, so he tried it on the safes. After they didn't work, he tried other numbers that mathematicians and physicists would use, and sure enough, it worked. After he got into the safes, he thought to pull a prank on the director by leaving little notes in the safe to scare the director into thinking that a spy had gotten in. Just adding some more fun facts about this. He needed to get in because he had a report due and the library was closed. That office was the only other place the files he needed were stored. He had a hobby of cracking safes around Los Alamos. One corporal or something had a circa $25,000 safe installed in his office that the installers had a hell of a time getting up the stairs, and that asshole never bothered to change the original code it came with. Surely you're joking. Mr. Feynman is amazing and hilarious. Highly recommend. One corporal or something had a circa $25,000 safe installed in his office that the installers had a hell of a time getting up the stairs, and that asshole never bothered to change the original code it came with. Aww, you left are the funniest part. Although I guess that raises the problem of whether you're allowed to abridge a Feynman anecdote. A general did the same thing, and Feynman sat him down and gave him a serious talk about the very real security problems at Los Alamos and how easy it was for him to get into safes, and how it could all be prevented with a simple policy change, enacted by a single memo from the top. The next day, there was a memo to everyone, from the general. Under no circumstances is Richard Feynman to be allowed in anyone else's office without being directly supervised. Security problem solved. It's just a prank, bro. In the UK, a lot of very old streets are named after the professions of ye old inhabitants, e.g., Baker Street. The brothels were often located on Gropicant Lane, many of which still exist under Grope Lane, like in Bristol, or Grape Lane, like in York. Other fact relevant to your edit. Ye in old-time writing was spelled with a symbol similar to a Y, called Tom, which was pronounced TH, so most often the pronunciation was the same as today. 10–20% of US power outages are caused by squirrels. The Ice Age was also started by a squirrel, goddamn scrat. Muppets singing Bohemian Rhapsody is the first ever video on YouTube with 1080p quality. This is important, and I hope my kids will read about it in textbooks. The unicorn is the national animal of Scotland. I'm Scottish, can confirm. 50% of the world's pigs live in China. When roosters make their sound, their ears close up so that they won't become deaf. They don't have to listen to their own bullshit, those sadistic jerks. I like this one, LOL. Crows hold grudges. Once they identified the suspect in question, they would threaten them by diving down and swarming the person that they had felt threatened by years before. I've heard really cool things about crows. One crow that was harassed by a specific person will convince lots of crows to attack that same person if they are seen later. Conversely, if a crow likes a person, they will bring them shiny things and trinkets, and even convince other crows to do the same. I once heard, can't recall, a story about a man who fed crows bread. They would bring him coins, rings, watches, all sorts of things. He stopped when they started bringing him human teeth. I wouldn't have. I've read about the ravens at the Tower of London. The Raven Master is very close with one and she brings him bits of dead mice and food stolen from tourists. The oldest your mom joke was discovered on a 3,500-year-old Babylonian tablet. Thou'st birthgiver has sucketh on mine cock and balls. Obligatory thanks for the upvotes, but seriously my karma has doubled because of this comment. Reddit is weird. The thigh bone of human is stronger than concrete, but only in one direction. IARC. So is it like any other bone if you're not a member of a famous boy band? A lot of flatworm species are hermaphroditic, meaning they have both male and female parts. When two of them meet up to mate, neither one of them wants to be the one to get creamed in. So they do a little thing called peanuts fencing, where they go at each other with their dongs out and try to stab the other one with it deep enough to inject sperm. And female hyenas have pseudo-penises, which are larger than a male's authentic peanuts. Oh yeah, female hyenas' clitorises are roughly 8 inches long usually. I saw this on Nat Geo. They also give birth through it. It usually has to rip to allow the baby hyena out though, so ouch. The tallest building in the state of Wyoming is a college dorm. Why build up when you can just build out? God, I miss living in Wyoming. There was practically no one around. It was great. More fun facts. There are 2 sets of escalators in Wyoming, more cows than people, and the population density is 6 people per square mile. Okay, now I want to live there. Sorry, the state is full. They don't want it to get too crowded. They actually found out the Financial Center is 2 feet higher. They're college students. They're probably still the highest people in the state. Each pineapple takes 1.53 years to grow. They really grow out of each other too. I thought that was just a wallpaper pattern until I went to Hawaii and visited a plantation. You can grow a new one out of the top of one you're eating if you keep enough of it intact. Also, it's one of only 2 members of the bromeliad family that are edible. The other is not commercially viable for crops. Can confirm all of this. My dad is growing his own pineapple from one he ate about a year ago. It's really cool. The world's longest hiccup was about 8 years. Just think how hard it would be to get in a relationship. I'm sitting here imagining some guy making a hiccup sound, but the sound never stops and he's just spending 8 years screeching at everyone. And then one day it just stops and he's looking around like someone called him until he realizes it's gone and just goes thank you, and there it is again. If you are 25 years old, apx 1/3 of the world's population who were alive when you were born have since died. If you are older than 30, you are older than half the people currently living. Thanks. I wasn't feeling old before, but I am now. If you open your eyes in a pitch-black room, the color you'll see is called Ejengra. Your fact is full of number 16,161D. That's the color number? Yes. The world's largest purchaser of explosives is the US government. The world's second largest purchaser of explosives is Disney. So that's how Disney controls all the other companies. Let us buy you or you'll get to see the next fireworks display up close at. There are no cats in the Bible. What? Dogs? There were dogs, but they weren't pets. They were wild. They have Egypt, but don't have cats? Cannibalism isn't illegal. What is illegal is how someone obtains the body. People can put in their will that they would like to be eaten alive or consumed after death, with the legal name of the person eating them. And by law the government cannot stop you, if I remember correctly. And I don't want to fact check right now. It's the same in Germany. You are allowed to eat other people, but every way to obtain the meat is illegal. Can't I chop off my own arm or something? Checkmate. Anti-cannibals. There was actually someone who did something like that. I think he was losing his foot or some shit. Edit. I just looked it up. He was in a motorcycle accident and wasn't going to even be able to walk with it again, so they amputated it. But he requested to keep it, and he ate it. Didn't he ask a bunch of his friends to have this foot feast with him? I think I remember that story.